I'm Fatheree.
This is Dave.
This is Brian.
I'm Holly.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
So welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 60th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast. And tonight we are going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 8, If Memory Serves. And this episode was written by Dan Dworkin and Jay Beatty and directed by T.J. Scott. Cool thing about T.J. Scott is that he directed the Star Trek Discovery Season 1 episode, The Wolf Inside, where they're in the Mirror Universe and they go to the planet Harlak.
Yeah.
It looks like it was shot at the same location that a lot of this episode was shot at.
Planet Harlak, wasn't the one where there was like the rebels?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay.
So it looked like it was shot at some quarry near the Toronto area, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Then special effects stuffed a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't do that much to it, but...
It was more when they went underground.
It looks about the same as Harlak as it does as Talos IV.
Yeah, so, now that you brought it up, you've ruined the illusion for me. Whoa, that was thematic.
Yeah, a lot of the planets on Star Trek Discovery look like Canada, just like a lot of the planets on other Star Trek shows look like California.
But, Disco has a budget to occasionally have, mycelial worlds and, or drop a big special effects-y watching eye on a beach and stuff like that.
Some red sand on the Kelpian beach.
Yep.
Or green trees on planet Pavo. Or no, blue trees.
Yeah,
that's right.
The green trees are the ones we have on Earth.
Yes. That's the ones they find on the alien planets that SG-1 goes to.
We don't talk about that.
That's where everything looks like it's right outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And yeah, they shot everything in what looks like Stanley Park rainforest. But yeah, this episode was really cool. This was a big throwback to the original series. So if you haven't watched The Cage, and you did watch this episode of Discovery, you might be a little confused. But
they went out of their way to explain it, though.
They did. Yeah, we had that cool recap of the opening.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat way to do it, where they kind of did this sort of like pop version of it, where they were like, I don't know, panning in and around and like, just showing snippets of it, but also, I don't know, they were like altering it slightly. It was almost the way, like, this is a weird thing to say, but how they do, like, motion comics, or how they did that
I get what you're saying. I actually think they took the transitions and stuff they threw in there a little too far, but it was fun. It was enjoyable.
I think they just kind of wanted to make it sort of a lively pop experience and not have people, like, reflect too long on these old-school special effects and visuals.
But to me, like, that footage looks so good. It holds up so well that I'm cool with it just the way it is, but I'm not gonna throw any shade for them trying to add a little modern flair to it.
I was immensely surprised that after all the flack these people have been getting about it doesn't look like it should, that we're going to take the thing that looks like it should and put it right there in the episode so that you can compare the actors and compare the costumes and compare the sets. And I was like, That's not the work of a coward, that's for sure. That is not the work of a coward.
I love that they did that, and that's gonna bring up just a little topic I want to mention before we get into our thoughts on this episode. We'll talk all about it in just a little bit, and there's a lot to unpack, so definitely stick around and listen to this. But before that, I just want to mention that, we now know that Discovery got renewed for a third season.
Right
I
on.
found that out last week. Not that it should surprise anyone who has stayed informed and is paying attention.
But Fatheree, what about the crazy YouTube conspiracy theories?
Yeah, there's some channels out there I'm not going to mention. Something like Bedtime Edgelords, and there's like Dr. Von Doo-Doo Chicken or something like that. But yeah, we had these people saying that Discovery is going to be canceled, and this whole time I said, don't listen to them. They have no idea what they're talking about. And they also have this crazy conspiracy theory about the licensing for Star Trek Discovery prohibits it from being in the same timeline as previous Star Trek shows. So we just had a flashback on Star Trek Discovery to an episode of the original series using footage from that episode.
There's like a giant middle finger to
Yes.
this.
Yeah. There was no fear in this opening. I did think it was amusing to see Pike looking a little thoughtful at the beginning. Like, he's like, I used to have a different face. How did that happen? Where did that other face go?
He should consult with James Bond on
Where
that.
did I get the other face?
Holly,
This
do you
never happened to
see
the
it?
other guy.
I would like to think that it's not so much of an FU to the nerds as so much as we don't care. We are television producers telling a story, making art, and we don't have time for whiny nerd rage.
I hope it is, like, because
Yeah.
I did also, like, when I saw it, I was also like, well, this is a welcome, happy thing for anybody who was a fan of TOS to just find it so clearly visually linked to the present. You know, it's like it's a hug from the 60s.
Realistically, I don't think the people making the show were given much thought to these
To the edgelords.
YouTube conspiracy theorists. But
But there must have been a point at which they were saying, for an extra few thousand, we could reshoot every one of those shots, or every shot that we need for the recap.
True.
And we could even line up the camera angles and replicate the lighting, but do it all with our modern effects, because we're already doing the Talosians makeup, which would have been the one expensive thing in those shots.
But
So they must have been that discussion, and then I don't know why they show. Yeah, I guess.
I think that they want to make it clear that that this is the same characters.
It's a tapestry.
And I mean, I like the look of the '60s Star Trek. Okay, I just love mid-century modern. It's everything about it. So
Yeah.
I love the look of I love the look of the '60s Star Trek.
I do
So
too.
I was
love the look
happy
of
to
the
see
cage,
that.
even though it's like a weird 1950s Forbidden Planet aesthetic.
Yeah.
I still love it. But yeah, I mean, just because they're different actors doesn't mean it's not in the same continuity. I mean, Robin Curtis Savick and Christy Alley Savick are the same character.
The Marvel movies have encompassed two different Hulks.
Yeah, two different roadies. So.
No,
somehow they shouldered on. We too will shoulder on.
Of course. And not only do we have confirmation of Discovery's return, but the reason why I'm talking about news during an episode discussion, because we typically don't do this, but we had some pretty big news this week with the first additional casting for the Picard show.
Yep. They got to give that a name. They got to give it a name.
Well, I think they're planning on like a big announcement at some point.
Yeah, I know. It just feels a little silly.
Well, maybe it'll be Star Trek Picard.
Maybe so.
Sonequa Martin Green said it's going to be called Picard.
That'll be better than Picard Show, because it always sounds like I'm talking about Rowan and Martin's laughing or something.
It's a cool hashtag, though. Hashtag Picard Show.
But yes, we got this announcement. And first two casting choices?
Yes.
What do we got?
An actor named Santiago Cabrera. And also an actress named Michelle Hurd, who I'm not too familiar with either of these. I know Michelle Hurd at some point appeared as I think a district attorney on Daredevil and Jessica Jones. I think maybe like in season 2 when Frank Castle's on trial, she might have been like the prosecutor or something like that. Maybe. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. So we don't have any official word on who these two actors are playing. However, there has been an unofficial leak that has come out with the character descriptions for the cast of the Picard show. I don't want to go into that because I don't really like talking about the unofficial leaks. I try to avoid spoilers, and I think the official announcements kind of give away too much, honestly. But from what I can tell, I think this is very likely accurate information. So if you're curious about that, it's very easy to find if you want to Google it on your own.
Get a little heads up on the series, probably.
Yeah, and the website trekmovie.com also seems to have info on which of those characters these two actors are playing. So I definitely think we'll be getting a lot of Picard news coming out very soon, because that's supposed to start production in April. And it's March now, so in a few weeks we'll probably have a lot more information than we currently have.
And debut as a series before the 2019 is out?
Yeah, supposedly before the end of the year, possibly early 2020. Okay. I don't think the entire season will be out by the end of this year.
Right.
So it'll definitely at least spill over into 2020. And that's also when we're likely going to get Star Trek Discovery Season 3, I'm going to guess in summer of 2020. Mm-hmm. And then in the fall of 2020, I think we're either going to get the Lower Decks animated show or possibly the Section 31 show, even though they're saying that's not going into production anytime super soon.
We won't be able to spit without hitting Star Trek.
Yeah, so I think 2020 is going to be the first year we ever have 3 Star Trek shows in 1 year. It's never happened before, and it is likely going to happen next year. So there's a lot to be excited about. So yeah, the people saying that the franchise is doomed, apparently, like I said all along, had no idea what they were talking about, and I just wanted to rub in that they're all terribly dishonest sons of bitches, and they can go fuck themselves.
But tell us how you really feel.
But yeah,
preach it.
Enough said about them, though, because we have a great episode of Star Trek to talk about. We're just gonna go down the line and give a spoiler-free opening statement. And then we'll take a deep dive and unpack all the spoilers. But just for our general thoughts, opening statements, who wants to go first?
You want to start? Let's do reverse order. Holly?
Okay.
I liked it. I thought this was a really good episode. It really gripped me. I still have a few unanswered questions we'll get to, but it was a good episode.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things with the more serialized format that we have on Discovery is that you don't always get all the answers up front, so it can be kind of frustrating, but then you always have the hope of like, well, maybe if they don't do it this week, maybe next week. So.
As long as they don't get to the end of the season and forget to answer some of them. Lost. I'm actually a fan. What do you think?
Yeah, I really, really liked this. I like the A plot, I like the B plot, I like the C plot. I thought all of them managed to hit their beat, their big point of each of those plots really hard and really well, and that gong rang pure and long, and I was very impressed.
It hummed with the vibration of the flowers on Talos IV.
Yes, it did.
To run with the metaphor ridiculously.
It did. Yes, it absolutely did. And
that sweet harmony that will make a Vulcan smile.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it made me smile. It made me cry. It made me cheer. It made me laugh. It was a great little 50-something minutes, and I'll admit that a lot of that is built on the shoulders of previous episodes. You couldn't do this as a standalone thing, but I really, really liked how they pulled all these threads together and flicked them, or plucked them, I guess, plucked them. So yes, very nice.
I was very down with it too. I think I might have had 1 or 2 issues with B plot or C plot. Are we thinking Section 31 is C plot?
Sure.
Sure.
I didn't really. I deliberately left it ambiguous.
Yeah, it was very clever. I love seeing the Talosians again. I was especially happy to see them kind of broaden the character of Vina from the cage and give her a little bit more emotional resonance, which I think, in a weird way, not in a weird way, but it'll trickle down to the episode The Menagerie, parts 1 and 2, and Pike's final fate. I think that lends more weight to that. So yeah, you're absolutely right about being built on the shoulders of that, and that very much worked for me. I thought this is a good way, a good example, as they've been generally doing this season, of revisiting the past in kind of a thoughtful, modern way, where you get some kicks out of seeing the classic stuff, but you're still telling a modern story with it. And I enjoyed finally getting some answers from Spock too. Fatheree?
Okay, so I'm struggling to find new ways of saying this, because I've said it so much watching Star Trek Discovery, But I think this is the best episode they've done so far. the show just keeps
It's not a bad
better.
problem. It's not a bad problem to have.
No, like the show has consistently improved. You know, even from early season 1, I like a lot of the stuff in the second half of season 1 with the mirror universe, and then I felt season 2 had a very strong opening and has been an improvement over season 1. And the second half of season 2 that we're getting into now is definitely showing a lot of promise. And I've said this several times before, but I honestly think this is my favorite episode of Star Trek Discovery. This is the show becoming the show I hoped it would be, where you have a bunch of cool connections to the original series, you know, being set in this time period, a decade before the adventures of Kirk and Spock. They're completely fixing a lot of the nitpicks I had about the show in season 1, and some of the complaints I've had about the show with some of the pacing and just the what I call the show's obsession with expedience. I know this was the most well-paced episode of Star Trek Discovery. It was a long episode, 54 minutes long, but it never felt like it had any lulls. At the same time, it was able to give big moments, you know, time to breathe and slow down when it needed to without feeling dull. It was extremely well constructed. I might have one or two little super Trek nerd nitpicks that we'll get into.
But clearly nothing that was really bringing the episode down.
So we need to get you a t-shirt saying, this was the best episode yet.
Yeah.
And you can just wear that.
I can wear that every week.
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while you need actually, this one was a slight letdown.
It does happen. It happens every now and then.
We'll get you 2 shirts.
Yeah. And if we get you that shirt, we'll jinx it, and then it'll all, you know, go to hell, and it'll be Spock's brain every week for the rest of the season.
Hopefully not. So I think we're going to go ahead and jump into spoilers and start off by recapping the episode, so you have been warned. And Dave is actually going to lead us in the warp speed summary.
I feel like I'm about to lead us in prayer.
Maybe I was channeling some of my Southern Baptist roots from childhood.
That's right. It's thematic for the season.
Yeah.
Oh, great bird of the galaxy.
Faith and science. All right, shall I just jump right on in?
Engage.
All right. So I'm going to do this episode, trying out something new and doing the recap here. They did something new by doing their recap and showing the original series flashbacks to the cage, to the unaired pilot that starred Christopher Pike. That makes Disco about as canon as you can get, it seems like. During this stylish recap, we're reminded that once upon a time, Pike, Spock, and his company set down on the planet Talos IV, where they encountered the creepily voyeuristic, telepathic Talosians. Along the way, Pike got the hots for Vina, a human castaway the Talosians had saved, but when Pike and crew left, she stayed behind. Meanwhile, back in the present, in Section 31 land, Georgiou is all but running the place and orders Disco to stop poking around for Spock, because Section 31's got this, and stick to analyzing the debris from the future squid probe in the last episode. Pike secretly keeps the search up, but Ash Tyler tells him he's just leading Section 31 to Spock and Burnham faster. If he really cares about Spock and Burnham, trust in Burnham to handle this shit. There's some more drama on the Disco. Hugh Culber isn't having Stamets' attempts to rekindle things. He's dissociating in the wake of his resurrection, not even sure who he is anymore. And his new way of finding peace now involves punching Ash Tyler in the face. The newer, fiercer Saru lets the fight play out so that they can both, hug it out, sort of. Elsewhere on Talos IV, the old flowers are still humming, and Vina's still got her hot leather one piece. Burnham puzzles out that Spock came to Talos IV so the Talosians could untangle his screwed-up head, and Vina brokers a meetup with the Talosians below the surface. The Talosians say Spock is experiencing time as a fluid rather than a linear concept, and he knew they might help where conventional medicine wouldn't. But the price for their services is they want to do a creepy, voyeuristic watch of Burnham and how she burned her bridge with Spock. She reluctantly agrees to go ahead and do this. Then the Talosians reveal the secrets of Spock's mind. The Red Angel first appeared to him in a dreamlike vision that helped he and his parents save Burnham from this big Vulcan dinosaur-looking thing after she ran away from home to protect everyone else from the Vulcan logic extremists that were hunting her. The second Red Angel dream Spock had was from just a few months prior when he was on the Enterprise and guided him to a remote planet where he mind-melded with the Red Angel. It showed him a vision of high-tech weapons destroying all of the life in the galaxy, and that sort of, seemingly that fluid time thing that they were showing him is when he snapped. We also glimpsed Spock's memory of his time at the Federation's psychiatric ward, where he was scrawling on the floors like a serial killer. The shrinks tell him about the recent red bursts, which were exactly where his scrawlings predicted they would be. Spock breaks out non-violently when he finds out that Section 31 wants to question him, so we know that they were lying about him killing the, 3 people? And finally, in the end, it's time for Burnham to pay the piper and reveal how she emotionally wrecked Spock. When she ran away from home, we learn, Spock tried to go with her. And like someone yelling at a dog to keep it from following them into traffic, she hurled all this feigned anger his way. She told him he was emotionless, that he was a half-breed. And so, at the end of the episode, the rift between them remains, although that seems like there's a little bit of conversation beginning to maybe make some amends between them. Pike gets up to speed on all things Talos when a Talosian projection of Vina appears to him. This is on the Discovery. He also finally gets to see his old pal Spock, who warns him that Section 31 wants him for his future knowledge. And Pike also knows that they tried to mind scan him in the previous episode, potentially permanently damaging him. So Pike races to Talos IV to pick Spock and everyone and burn him up. But Section 31, alerted by the probe-possessed Commander Arium, arrives at the same time and has a beam-off with the Discovery trying to grab Spock and Burnham. Section 31 ends up winning this, but psych, all they got was a Talosian illusion. Spike throws Pike a smile when they
Spike?
Spike. Spock, Pike, they are one. Spock throws Pike a Vulcan smile when they meet up again. He says that he knows the Red Angel is a human and knows it's a time traveler trying to avert his apocalyptic vision, or the apocalyptic vision he was shown. And Pike and his loyal crew opt to go on the run as they continue the investigation.
Yeah, that was a great summary. Thank you so much, Dave.
Sure.
And I think the area we need to start off the discussion with should be with Spock, because this is the first time where we've actually seen an engaged Spock who's actually a character on the show, who has some agency, who's not just like this
Rambling man?
Yeah, who's like, who Burnham carries around
Right.
from location to location. So, yeah, this is where we really see a fully realized Ethan Peck depiction of Spock. So, whoever wants to start off, what do we think of that?
What y'all think?
Pretty good. I mean, you can tell he's not the same as the previous actors, but at this point, since we've had more than one actor play Spock, and heck, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I really don't have a
How many Spock actors have we had? Because we have Nimoy, and then we have a few more in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Oh, we had one in the animated series playing Kid Spock.
Right.
There's a baby in Star Trek V.
Yeah, there's a baby in Star Trek V. We have...
Thanks for that.
not only Zachary Quinto, but we also have another Kid Spock in Star Trek 09.
And I think there's a baby in Star Trek 09 that was on the
the
cutting room
deleted
floor.
scene,
Yeah.
Don't leave the baby on the floor.
So, yeah,
That's...
we've had several different depictions of Spock.
But honestly, Nimoy and Zachary Quinto are the big guns.
I would say Nimoy and Zachary Quinto and Ethan Peck now.
Yes.
I would even go
are the pre-existing big guns.
Yes.
Yes.
I would even go as far to say that I can see myself enjoying... This is unfair to make this comparison, but I can see myself really embracing Ethan Peck's depiction of Spock over Zachary Quinto's.
See, I have to admit, well, I was ready that it wasn't going to be Leonard Nimoy. I kind of thought, I couldn't help but think Zachary would have done it better. And I'm not saying this guy was bad, and I'm sure I'll get used to him, but I have to admit that was my first reaction, if I'm being honest, was Quinto could have done it better. And I missed my Quinto. But I'm okay with him. I'm willing to give him, I'm sure he'll grow into it, and I'm sure he'll win me over. It's teething, just like anytime you've got one of these situations. So I'm very much I'm very much willing to go on where Star Trek wants to take me with this actor. But
where O'Brien has gone before.
Yes.
I don't know actually that he'll grow into it too much more, in the sense that I don't know how many more episodes are left in this season.
6.
But I also think he is probably meaning to portray a Spock who, even though he's out of his particularly agitated state, is probably still in a particularly vulnerable state, in recovery, and so is probably going to feel a little bit more emotional or maybe off key. It's pretty handy, because that means that if there's something we don't like about the performance, you can kind of chalk it up to that.
It's an advantage.
Yeah. It's an advantage,
But to be fair, Quinto didn't... Well, I guess I take that back, because Quinto also had, he's alternate timeline. Spoilers for Trek 09, he watched his mom die, so he definitely became a different Spock from that point going forward. But...
I think I somewhat agree with you, is that I felt Quinto more... He was clearly aping more of Nimoy's mannerisms, where this was kind of smooth, sexy Spock.
Yeah, well, I'd also say when Quinto was on screen, he tended to steal the show. This actor was definitely supporting Michael, is kind of how I felt. Like he was the guest star, Michael was the star. When Quinto was on screen, I kind of felt like he suddenly tended to outshine all the others around him, even Simon Pegg, who is a pretty big thing, a big presence on screen.
Holly, what do you got on your mind?
I'm wondering if the beard was there to cover up his face because he looks different, so to kind of not, to hide that. But I also kind of wonder why they didn't get Zachary Quinto. Is he too high priced now?
They're kind of separate things.
Yeah,
almost in the same way, if not more so, than Marvel movies and Marvel TV.
Marvel TV and Marvel movies are in the same continuity.
They are. They just don't.
They've actually had
They mostly don't always act like them, or maybe the Netflix shows, I should say.
Don't ever tell Jeff Loeb that the Netflix shows aren't in the same continuity as the MCU, because he will yell at you.
I won't tell him, but I know what I know.
But
I do think, by the way, the beard is in addition to visually hiding him a little bit, also does delineate something is off with Spock. So clearly it serves that purpose.
I think the beard is very symbolic to say it's the same reason we had a beard on Luke Skywalker. This is not going to go the way you think.
I think at the end of the season we might see him clean shaven to indicate to us that he is restored as the normal Spock we know from the original series, and now he will go have those adventures with Kirk and McCoy.
Well, that's kind of what I meant when I said grow into it. I want to see, because I suspect by the end of the season we'll be getting something much closer to the Nimoy Spock, and I'm kind of interested to watch that development.
But I think the reason why I like him so much is he just feels more Nimoy-ish than Quinto. I think just his physical presence, he seems like a tall, skinny guy with a deep voice like Nimoy, and also the writing. I think the Spock dialogue in this episode, as brief as it is, just one episode, but to me it really rings true of Spock's voice from the original series. And the Kelvin movies did a good job of that too, but I really felt it in this in a way I was not expecting. The way that Spock speaks, he has there's kind of a poetic nature, but he's also so direct and on point in a very elegant way. And I think some of the lines in this episode reflect that. When he's giving that speech to Burnham at the end, after we see that final flashback of their childhood, and he's just talking about where he's at in life now, where logic has failed him, time has failed him, emotion has failed him, and now he has no foundation to build anything. I could totally hear Nimoy saying all this stuff in a TOS episode, and it almost made me kind of wish that Ethan Peck had that exact same cadence that Nimoy spoke with. It's so iconic because I've seen those episodes so many times.
Right.
But it's probably best that he didn't try it a full Nimoy imitation.
Right.
So.
You kind of get the role will grow more into him rather than he'll grow into the role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want to tell actors unless they're really good at it. Like I kind of feel that Childish Gambino in Solo
as Lando,
I felt like he nailed Billy D. Williams' cadence perfectly. And I can tell. Oh yeah, when you were a kid, you watched The Empire Strikes Back a lot because I mean, like he had it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you as a rule of thumb, you don't want to tell actors to copy a previous actor's performance.
Right.
They need to make it their own.
You know, I think I'm still wrapping my head around a little bit around his portrayal of Spock, but I have no doubt that his like interplay with Burnham was strong acting, and like that he was. I thought he was bringing a lot to the table as far as those scenes went. Even if I was a little bit like, is that exactly what Spock would say? I don't know. But he's slightly emotionally compromised, or maybe very emotionally compromised, and I felt that like there was a resonance to all their dialogues.
Yeah, I love their interplay. They had great chemistry, and that's probably more important than getting a good Nimoy copy anyway.
Yeah.
And I loved some of the stuff that was revealed in the flashbacks, like he mind melded with the Red Angel. Yeah, we've made that joke on here before. That's a Spock thing to do. Is that he likes to mind meld with weird, dangerous entities. We saw him do it with the Horta. He did it with Nomad. He did it with I don't even know how you mind meld with a computer, but he has like a mind melding fetish.
Yeah, well, I once saw a comic strip back in the late 80s making fun of Star Trek 4, saying, "Well, we're going to go back in time and get some whales. That's a stupid idea." "Well, you have a better idea?" "Yeah, we shoot Spock out at the probe and have him mind meld with it." I was like, that's not actually a terrible idea.
Then when they go back in time to actually get the
whale,
he like swims down in the water tank and mind melds with them.
Maybe he's talking to that man.
And with Enterprise, when we learned that like mind melding is kind of like at one point it's kind of like like an underground
taboo
kind
sort
of
of thing,
taboo,
right?
Treated as kind of like a sexual thing.
Yeah,
it's like
bondage sex or something.
That makes Spock this taboo breaking sexual dynamo.
No, he's just, I don't want to like slut shame him, but he's kind of like a promiscuous mind melder.
It's the first thing he thinks of.
Yeah. Whenever he sees a new life form.
Yeah.
We also, by the way, we got to see him do the Vulcan nerve pinch. Like, bam, just instantly knocked out the doctor who was talking to him.
I like how they handled that fight when he made his escape, because Spock's not. I don't want him to be like a martial artist who does the Vulcan martial arts, the Sus Mana, because it's Burnham's thing.
He was like quick and efficient.
And that's how he kind of was in the original series. He would just like, come up to someone, nerve pinch them. If he has to, he'll do a double fist punch. The strongest attack in all of Star Trek.
Right.
But typically, and Nimoy did that intentionally. He came up with a Vulcan nerve pinch because he didn't want Spock to be the kind of like
a
brutish,
brawler.
Yeah, a brawler. Like he wanted him to be like a more like just a precise strike.
Yeah. And they really nicely captured that, and he almost like Snake tagged her.
Here's something we need to talk about is the reveal of what Burnham said to Spock. That actually the mystery of how did she drive this wedge between the two of them. I'm just gonna say some quick thoughts on it and then pass it on to y'all. But I cried when I watched that, but that's not saying a lot. When I'm invested in something, I cry pretty easily. I actually kind of feel like I'm satisfied, but I wish they had done like a little bit more. If it's just like a little bit more harsh, because I had siblings, like we say nasty things to each other. Like I've said stuff worse to my sister. She said stuff worse than that to me.
And I suppose we've seen Spock in his childhood get insults before.
Yeah.
Right?
My point is the greatest pain Spock carries in his whole life is his father saying "so human" after his birth. So half-breed is hitting pretty close to home for him as far as what pre-established canon says.
This is kind of like going on the other way. This was a Spock who was like, I can go be a human with my human sister and learn the ways of Earth.
Well, yeah, but he's just kind of that's his touchy point. There.
I can kind of see it though as like, now he's like felt rejection from both sides.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's pretty rough.
So I mean, yes, invoke Star Trek V. Always a bad idea, but those on the other hand, those sequences with those visions with Sybok were probably the best part of Star Trek V.
But speaking of Star Trek V, Where's Cybok? We
didn't
still he's got to show up. I'm sorry. We have all the Spock family drama here, and even like Cybok's shtick. Somehow it just seems that Cybok has to show up in
He's
this
weirdly
season
missing.
Yes.
To jump back to, briefly, though, to Burnham's sick burn of Spock.
Yeah.
I think I felt a little bit
Are you
removed
saying
from
that
it.
she could burn him?
She did. She not just could, she did.
She actually
Her name
was...
should be Burnt Him.
Yeah.
Sick Burnham.
Michael Burnt Him.
My only...
That's what she got that last name. That wasn't her parents' last name. That was just something.
Call me Burnham.
Yeah, no, all the other Vulcans who bullied Spock, when they saw what happened, they were like, "Oh, you're the master."
So my only issue was it was a little tropey. I've seen that concept before, and so like at first I wasn't like super into it when I kind of realized with the direction it was going. But the way they shot it, where they intercut between their kid selves and their adult selves, saying it to each other and crisscross back and forth. So like sometimes Burnham was like talking to a kid, and sometimes it was the adult Spock speaking in this childlike voice with the pain that he felt as a kid. I thought that was very effective, and that did win me over.
Yeah.
They sold it well. The execution was good.
Yeah.
I still think that they could have come up with something a little bit more creative, and there was had like a little bit more harshness to it. Mm-hmm. But they did a more than competent job pulling it off. The emotion was there, so I'll give them a pass on that.
I liked all the kid Michael, kid Spock's interaction. I loved all of the scenes together. I loved all of that. I have some friends who are like, "Oh God, why do we have to keep bringing up the sister of Spock?" That's the thing I hate most about this show. But I loved all of it. That was my favorite part in the episode.
They're gonna have to get past that one.
Yeah.
But I think after this episode, I'm now fully invested in like their relationship. Before I was like, I don't know if I'm that interested in the Burnham and her family type stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna like how they portray Spock on this show. After this episode, I feel a lot better about all of that.
Well, it also revealed that, or at least she surmised, and is probably correct, that Spock, the very reason that he led her into this was because she is sort of his constant, and she will have the ability to ground him where maybe nothing else would have.
I love that reveal where he tells her, like, "No, you didn't bring me here. I brought you here." Like in my madness, me mumbling these coordinates backwards. I needed you here because I needed these butthead big brain aliens to fix me with your assistance.
Yep, even Spock, who's off his rocker, to use the politically correct term for it, he's got something going on. There's stuff firing back in there, and he guided them towards it. Speaking of the Talosians, though, we should talk about the Talosians.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a reimagining of them. They tweaked their look, updated it. A big part of this whole debate. I hate going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, but the idea of like the licensing and Star Trek Discovery has to be like separate from everything else is that it's become kind of clear now that the people in charge at CBS, they do want things to look different on Star Trek Discovery so that they can basically sell like a different toy of everything or have like different merchandise. Has to be licensors have to get like a different, or licensees have to get a different license to make this merchandise. So they do kind of want everything to look like 25% different. That's why we see like a different visual interpretation of the Enterprise. The Talosians here look a little bit different as well.
And at the very least, also, I would presume that they would want to show off some special effects. But yeah, there's also there's a commercial reason behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I kind of don't like that big bridge that they put going like from their nose to their forehead.
They look like motion picture Klingons.
Yeah, if they would have just like smoothed that down and had like a more human looking face, and I know they did it to make them look less human, but if it looked a little bit more closer to the TOS version right there, I would have loved this design.
I didn't have a chance to check, or I couldn't tell clearly. Did they do the old trick of hiring women and putting male voices over them?
No, one of them, like
I forgot about that.
I think one of them was a woman, one of them was a man, and I think there's a third one in the background. I'm not really sure, but like the first one that speaks does appear to be a man.
and sounds like a man.
Yeah.
So they didn't
He sounded
swap
like a
it.
Borg. He sounded
Yeah.
like the Borg voice was my first thought.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that they had done like a more of a similar voice that we heard from the Keeper.
The original
the
voice
cage.
was fine as far as a kind of creepy, ethereal thing.
Yeah, it's a very 50s alien kind of notion of the super intelligent, advanced, but kind of to the point of becoming somewhat inhuman.
We still have like the metal fabric dresses that they wear. They still had like the bling, the medallion.
I'm sure that's how they would characterize it.
They actually got rid of the butt cheeks on the back of the head. Which I kind of wish they would have kept that. Just a little in joke.
I just wanted it to be a little bit more bulbous the way it was and look like that kind of like a cephalopod, like an octopus kind of sponginess to it. This looked a little too tap hard.
We still have some like vein movement on their heads though.
But I really still in all these are like minor things. I liked seeing the new interpretation. I liked seeing the Talosians. You know, one of the things I like about them is they're these weirdly neutral to good kind of aliens, but very unknowable in their alien way. Like I joke about them being voyeurs, but that is kind of part of how they experience things.
No, yeah, that's totally their thing.
And yet they will help you in the end. They are good-natured in an alien sort of way.
They're good-natured to an extent. They kind of view themselves as above other life forms, and
they take care of their pets.
Yes, yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
But yeah, I liked seeing some aliens that acted a little bit more alien.
Yeah, I'll say that I was fine with the makeup reboot as far as, I mean, you look at them, you instantly think Talosian. It's not like the Klingons where they might have gone so far that you're not sure that's a Klingon until somebody tells you that's a Klingon. You instantly know that's a Talosian.
I didn't even really notice it because I hadn't I just thought okay, and now that you pointed out, I can definitely and I'd seen both episodes, but I guess I hadn't really paid attention to the makeup in either one. So.
And for all we know, we've never seen what a Talosian actually looks like. They might all be an illusion every time we see one.
Maybe when they show the
That is
previous...
an amazing retcon.
Yeah, maybe they have no physical form, or they're just little insects or something.
I mean, Pike does hold a... Not a phaser, but a laser to
Yeah.
one of them, to the head of one of them.
Yeah, and they talks about twisting their head off and stuff. So.
Maybe they were just projecting what they thought was sexiest in those days.
Yeah.
This is their true unsexy form.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of sexy, I think we should talk about Vina.
Oh.
Well, I did want to... Well,
Okay.
I guess I have a statement that will probably be controversial. I remember how I gushed about this episode. The thing if I could fix one thing
I know
about
what it is. I know what it is. The transporter on the shuttle.
No.
Oh, okay. That was
Though
my
that
big
did cause me to raise an eyebrow. I honestly think this episode was so good, it did not need Talos IV. I think that if there's a weak spot of this episode, it was the need to do the big nostalgia porn with Talos IV, and I just don't think we needed that.
You would have liked some other method of
honestly, if you just put
mind meld or whatever.
Yeah, you put Spock and Burnham together, and that's pretty much all you need to explore all of these different things.
See,
So
my suspicion here is, and here I am writing how I would do this story, but my suspicion is that since they are forbidden to go to Talos IV, but there's no death penalty in this story, but there is a death penalty stated over and over in the original series.
Very much mentioned, yeah.
And you can't really ignore that. I'm thinking that Talos IV is going to play a bigger role, that there's going to come something during the season as to why they would have a death penalty.
They are not done with the Talosians.
They're not done with the Talosians, and I actually am kind of suspecting that maybe the Red Angel will turn out to be Vina, but I don't know.
You mentioned that off mic, and I kind of like the idea now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Now, if they bring the Talosians back in some other capacity, then that would justify their appearance here totally, and I would drop my niggling little, did we really need that? Obviously we did if we're setting something up.
I'm not convinced that we'll see Talos IV again, but I definitely can see that happening. I think they might have just chosen not to mention that General Order 7, just because it's kind of hard to explain like the death penalty for visiting a planet. It just seems like a little
harsh for the Federation as we've come to know them over the aggregate of many decades.
It is possible that hasn't been implemented yet. We did have Admiral Cornwell say in Season 1 that the Federation has no death penalty. So maybe they're going to build on that and say like they don't have one currently, but they're about to have one on Talos IV.
Section 31 will have its revenge on the Talosians by building a cultural wall around them of anyone who...
Because Georgia has no problem with the death penalty. So and if the Talosians do something, I mean, I don't know. I personally think by the end of the season that Pike is going to suffer his tragic accident too. But...
No, he can't do it at the end of the season because that was a recent event in Season 1 of the original series.
Which is several years from now.
Okay, that was something I wasn't sure on myself.
Yeah, so that's got to be like 8 years later.
Now, they could end the season with Section 31 saying, and as long as he keeps playing ball, it's fine, but if he ever starts to give us any problems, make sure he has an accident. Bum, bum, bum.
You know how I want them to handle that? Because they said they're going to do more of the short Trek episodes.
Yeah.
Between seasons, probably soon, like between shows, they're going to do like little short Trek, little short films. Probably one a month because CBS All Access wants everyone to stay subscribed. I would like to see Anson Mount brought back for a short trek where we actually see the accident, where we see him rescuing the cadets, and maybe Section 31 is there making sure that he is injured and put in a wheelchair. They can only communicate in binary to keep him silent.
That would be a good use of a short trek.
Yeah, that would be the best short trek ever so far if they do that.
We'll see.
Yeah. They've had some good short treks.
They do, but that would be the best.
Yeah.
It's definitely your idea. It's definitely the best.
It would be hard to fuck that one up. But what Holly mentioned about Vina being the Red Angel, that thought hit me when I was watching this, and they showed Vina in the flashbacks. I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get Vina in this episode, and then I was like, what if she is the Red Angel?
We got a lot of her in the episode,
which might be why obviously she'd need the suit because she can't really leave Talos V in her current form very easily.
She wasn't all hunched over in that suit, though.
Do we know that
everything works?
But it could be from the future when she's been rebuilt better.
Yeah.
She wasn't really hunched over in this episode.
Yeah, I did notice.
She was just old. She just had some scars and stuff, but she was. And she looked older than this girl did.
Do we want to retcon that after they got to examine Pike, we know better how these people are supposed to go together, so they took her apart and did a better job putting it.
Like you said, they take good care of their pets.
Yeah, they take good care of their pets.
Possibly. I think after they really met humans and saw that they did the better job and they couldn't take care of the aging and they couldn't necessarily take care of the scar. Yeah. Or maybe...
they might have just asked her, do you want to live forever? And she's like, no, this is not the life I want to have forever.
I did wonder if we have ever had any real notion of what their lifespans would be expected to be after living an illusory life on Talos. Because if the Talosians did opt to, and they opted to live a long life, it would be interesting if she was still around, 1,000 years from now, or 500 years, or whatever the timeline they want it to be. And sets in motion their Red Angel events.
But yeah, I just want to talk about the new actress playing Vina and her performance and the use of the character here. What did y'all think about her?
I liked her. I thought it was they're still, because she looks basically like they wanted her, the fantasy dream girl that Pike envisioned in the cage. There's the sex appeal element, she's basically still walking around in her sexy one piece thing. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, the more important thing in the episode was the emotional resonance with Pike, who, if nothing else, who will later return to her, we know in the menagerie?
Yes.
That this is not some idle thing, that they really felt a strong connection. And, in the 1 hour episodes or 45-minute episodes of old, that's a little harder to hammer out that, this is this could be a for the ages romance, or this could be real.
They did establish that in the cage on her side of it, because she said that, the Talosians picked you because they knew that you would be a person who I could love, who I would want to spend my life with. And then Pike responds to that by saying, I was attracted to you from, the moment I saw you. He doesn't elaborate more than that. But
right.
it
But
does,
once they
it does
kind
track
of once he sort of sees through the illusion, that's kind of like, well, that's kind of a bit done in the episode, right?
No, like after that, like, well, he sees that when he asks her to like come with
I haven't
them.
watched it. Well, we did. I guess we watched it in the last year or two.
You
but
watched
I don't
it
remember,
3 years ago.
But I don't remember what the exact, what the emotional outcome was.
He wanted her to leave Talos IV, and she said, "I can't because I'm fugly." Was the word that I used when me and your brother were talking about this.
Yep.
And so she chose to stay behind. But I love in this episode when Pike says, I wish that you had come with us. Mm-hmm. And it suggests that he still had some strong feelings for her.
I mean, in some ways, it was the most kind of the deepest acting that the actor that Ensign Mount has been called to do. At least the kind of the deepest character, or kind of like introspection into his own character that he's shown.
Yeah.
And I love Susan Oliver's performance in The Cage, and she's a very tough act to follow. And I like the woman who plays her here. I have her name somewhere. I'll look it up in a second. But yeah, she's a gorgeous woman. But I when I saw her, I was like, well, she doesn't look quite like Susan Oliver. Like I didn't get like the same.
She was like 25% different.
She was more than 25% different. Like I don't know. It didn't like quite feel like the same character at first. When they let her talk about what I called her Stockholm syndrome. When I was rewatching this earlier, where she says like, "Oh yeah, they're not that cruel after you get to know them," and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh yeah, well this is obviously written very well as like the same character," but I think she just looked very different, and she looked.
And did not have that voice. Susan Oliver has a very distinctive voice.
Yeah, and I love it. And like that moment where like they're punishing her, and like she gives those like really raw screams.
Yeah.
And when she's having like the real emotional conversations with Pike, where you can tell like she's like frustrated that he won't commit to this life with her, and she really performed that character very well. Left a big impact on me watching it, and
vaguely resonates with well, I'll save that. That's kind of
but I guess it's kind of hard to replicate that, so they probably couldn't find an actress that looked exactly like that and sounded like that.
They could have, if they wanted, like you were saying, they could have reshot things. They could have had the hair cut to the exact style. But there's clearly an effort to move forward a little bit visually.
Yeah. But Melissa George is her name, and I thought it was weird. I guess they wanted someone who's more like the same age as Anson Mount, or closer in age.
She still seemed notably younger.
But I looked up her age. I think she was 42. Susan Oliver was, I think, 32 when she played the character, but she was supposed to look like she could be 18.
Yeah. Was the style at the time.
Yeah.
But
at the time, it's still something you see a lot of.
Wait, the actress that played her in this one was 42?
Yes.
I was going to say, she didn't look 42 to me.
Yeah, I would not have guessed it.
I would have guessed she was 10 years
30,
younger than that.
if you had said 30, I would have bought it.
No, I was thinking, and again, like, I think she's a gorgeous woman, but I was like, I think she's a little bit older than me, but...
one of the interesting things is that in addition to, of course, securing, having some resonant scenes with Pike, she is also she has a fair amount to do in the episode. She is essentially the guide to the Talosians. She's I think, in some ways, she's like the liaison between them and in all things.
Which makes sense. I mean, we have a human, have the human talk to the humans. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense.
I kind of like the confidence that she maybe had grown a little bit more in confidence since her time with Pike in the cage.
Well, after she saw like humans defeat the Talosians and like threaten to like blow themselves all up, and if they didn't like let them go, and
it's going to change you a little bit.
Yeah, it probably made her like a little bit more bold in her dealings with them.
Yeah.
I think we also need to talk about the Culber Stamets stuff in this episode.
One of the ironic things is Culber and Stamets are feeling a whole lot like Pike and Vina in the cage. You must love me. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. This is there's a context. It's not. You must. Come on, we should have this perfect life together.
I think they're both kind of being assholes. Because, Stamets isn't really...
I don't know that you can say that about somebody who's clearly experiencing PTSD.
You can say that, it's not really his fault he's acting like an asshole, but... He's still acting like an asshole.
Well, like, he
punching
literally...
people in the face. Fucking, like, your partner cooks you supper and you just, like, throw the bowl off the table.
I don't know.
Those are asshole actions.
That is not a...
I think because he has, he's experienced something that nobody else really has. He's
been reconstituted.
Yes.
And so that's got to bring about a lot of psychological changes. And if anybody who goes through a serious thing in their life where they almost die or has any kind of near-death experience rethinks things, and he didn't just have a near-death experience, he had a death experience, and he comes back, and I think it's perfectly natural to ask, am I experiencing things the same way I did? Or does my food taste the same to me as it used to? What really makes me feel alive?
It would really, like, fuck with your head when you're like, am I alive? Am I the same person who died?
Yeah, I could...
I think that he had it pretty natural. I think Stamets is kind of hard not to, is kind of not wanting things to be the way they are, and I think that's hard. I think I can see why that's hard when he's come back, because he's a changed person, and so when you're a changed person, it's kind of hard to want to be the same way that you were.
Yeah, it would be hard for either of them to have to deal with that.
I feel like Stamets essentially went on kind of like an epic quest, and he won the girl in the traditional form.
That's what I was thinking. There's a certain objectification of Culber that was going on there, where this is the way this is what you do, this is your role, this is where you fit, this is I'm seeing you as you used to be before you died. We're just going to delete all that and rewind, and I'm not really seeing you as a person and what you're feeling and what you're thinking today. And I can see how after several days of that could get Culber to just absolutely blow up, and yet he can't. It's hard to put your finger on without, and you, especially if you're a guy, you don't want to say I'm broken, but it's not fitting right. And
I'm not sure that Culber is broken, but Stamets,
I think he's broken.
Stamets wants him to go back and live exactly the way they were, and he has had an incredible experience, and he has come back, and he is questioning his entire life, and he might want to be with Stamets at some point, but he won't want things to be the way they were before. And so I think that tension is probably to be expected.
Yeah, I thought it's actually fairly realistic in its way.
It is.
I did like, if harsher realism would say that probably the doctor who took over for him on Discovery probably should have had him in serious counseling before he ever went back on duty.
Well, is he on duty?
I guess so. I guess before he like runs into Ash out in the hallways, he should be undergoing like intense therapy, and maybe he is.
What about that fight? That fight felt very real to me.
I liked it. I was like, and
when he flips over the tray, like it felt
kind of scary. Like whoa, like this is not good.
Yeah,
like this is a guy who's like kind of like we're throwing down, we're fighting.
Well, he can say everything that's a problem in my life right now, everything I'm treating the person that I love, I used to love, whatever, I can't even figure it out, horribly, all because of you. I can blame all of this on you, Tyler, and fist to the face. Yeah. So,
and Tyler doesn't even like really fight back that hard or like argue with him or anything. He's just like, it sucks. I know, like.
Well, yeah, because Tyler didn't want to do it. So, or that wasn't Tyler. That was Vogue. So you can see why Tyler probably feels guilty. I mean,
sure.
What is that?
That's the only guy that can really relate to Culber, though, because Tyler is like, I'm not even Tyler was some guy who died. I'm like a copy of Tyler in a Klingon body,
and Culber is a copy of Culber in a cloned body. I kind of want them to do that. I want them to get together and say, you're the only person on the ship who actually understands what I'm going through. That would be awesome.
I agree.
That may happen.
They need to be stuck in a shuttlecraft together, or crash on a planet together.
Or however they do it. But I want to get to that point. I really want them to have that point where they realize you're the only one who actually knows what I'm going through.
I agree. I think that'd be a potent story. On a meta level, do y'all have any sense of where do you think the writers want to push it? Do you think they just wanted to introduce some more drama, which is a little weird because they just got the couple back together and then they split them apart. Do you think they have any particular goal with Culber?
I think that they wanted to bring the character back in a big way because a lot of people were mad at them for killing the character. Mm-hmm. And so they did that, but they also don't want to make it look
Dreams
like...
come true.
Yeah, they don't want to make it look like death is meaningless on the show, so they're trying to make sure there's a lot of consequences to a death and a resurrection.
I think you're right.
And so they're trying to draw it out for those purposes. I don't want them to take it into like a will they, won't they kind of thing, because I hate when writers use that to milk drama.
I don't think they'll do that one.
I would really like them to get back together. If they do stay separated, I don't know. One thing I heard suggested earlier today was maybe Culber can go be a character on the Section 31 show. Especially now that he's kind of like a misfit, and Giorgio has described Section 31 as like a bunch of freaks that are more fun.
If he connects with Ash,
with Tyler,
and Ash says, "Hey, this is crazy, but there might be a role for you," I could sort of see that.
Yeah, but everyone was rejecting Tyler. Everyone wants to embrace Culber. So it would feel a little... It's certainly a very different context. It would be him choosing to run away rather than him being driven away.
Yeah, but maybe if Culber's like...
Maybe that's the one choice he can make as his new self.
If he's like, I want to get away from all of this, all of my old life, all of you people that want to be friends with me, like we were friends, but like, no, it's not the same. I just gotta move on to something new and different.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily that he wants to move on to something new and different. It's that he wants to truly feel alive. And he's been through something that nobody else understands, and I think it's just that he's searching for who he is, and he can't necessarily just stay. Things can't stay the same for him. He's got to grow.
Yeah, he needs some help.
And
he needs Troy.
Give the guy some counseling.
What he
needs a counselor. Troy.
Is to talk to Spock, but Spock after Star Trek IV. You mean I have to die to discuss your thoughts on death?
We don't know the future of Dr. Hugh Culber. Like maybe the two of them will have a conversation at some point, like between Star Trek 5 and 6 or something.
Yeah. They would absolutely be able to relate.
That would be like a Star Trek Waypoint comic.
Because it's basically the same thing. Spock's Katra ends up in a cloned body. Culber's Katra ends up in a cloned body. They're absolutely identical, you know.
And they were borrowing a play out of the old Star Trek playbook.
Yeah. Meanwhile, is Vogue Tyler? Is he gonna live the dark vampire where you had the demon take over your body for a while and do your killing, and now you have to remember what the demon did? Is that our trope with Tyler Vogt?
Yeah, he says he remembers Vox's memories.
Yeah, he has all of Vox's knowledge. But,
yeah.
The thing we see with Tyler in this episode is that he's accused of being the saboteur by Pike.
Do you think he is?
No, I think it's Arium, who's been taken over by the computer virus or whatever. But I'm convinced that she's the saboteur, because she's the spore drive ops
I can
officer,
believe that. I'm just trying to figure out why is she working for sending messages.
When
to
the accusations were going around about like, well, it looked like Tyler did it. They kept on showing her in the background looking menacing. So that was just my assumption, was she had dropped.
So maybe because Giorgio mentions at the beginning of the episode that she doesn't like taking orders from computers that are analyzing threats and stuff like that, and so maybe like they have like an advanced computer system that at some point in the future becomes like the Skynet level entity, and that's what sent the probe back in time
before eventually becoming the sentient Discovery in 1,000 years from now.
Possibly, I don't know.
That kind of makes a little bit of sense that maybe it's Section 31's future computer or the computer but. So what is Arium? What's her backstory?
We don't really know. She's a cyborg, according to some of the Star Trek Discovery comics. She's a cyborg human. At one point, one of the actresses... So
that was a human? I figured she was an alien.
Well, at one point, I think one of the actresses or one of the writers or someone had said that she's an alien. They've never actually said on an episode, canonically, what she is.
Hopefully they get a good explanation of that when all of the red eye stuff comes to a fruition.
The fact that they they recast the actress for this season makes me think they might have like some big plans for her.
Yeah.
And for some reason they felt they couldn't use the first season actress. I mean, it might have been that she wanted to quit because she didn't like having all the makeup.
But didn't
on,
she show? Yeah, but didn't she show up as some
as a different character?
Yeah. So it might have been the makeup issue.
Yeah, it might have been like, okay, well, we'll get this other job for you, where you
what
don't
happened to
wear a ton of makeup, but
Rev and Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda,
Or Zahn in Farscape.
Oh, Zahn and Farscape.
You know when Georgiou was talking about interacting with computers in the mirror universe? Poor Leland, who's been very put upon these last few episodes, as Georgiou makes him look like crap again and again.
yeah, she's gunning for his job.
I felt that he got in one good dig when she was talking about the computer stuff in her universe, and he's like, "How'd that work out for you?"
Yeah.
Good job, Leland.
I also
score one for evil.
I also love what she said about how she murdered all the Talosians in her world. Because that would be
Some
the
dark
smart
humor
move.
there.
Yeah.
Although, did she really kill them all, or did they just make her
Yeah,
think that she killed them all?
that's,
Yeah.
that would make more sense.
Or perhaps the Talosians in her universe are contacting the Talosians in this universe.
Well,
Maybe there's
that would
more to
be-
the story than we know.
We haven't seen telepathy able to jump universes, but
One last thing I want to say about Section 31 is that I think it's really lame that their ship has the letters CIA in its name.
Does
it? Yeah, their ship is called NCIA 93.
It's a little on the nose.
Yeah, it's like a little too obvious, Discovery.
I mean, they do always when they don't they when they pan into it to have the camera fly upside down. I noticed that to show that things are up as down and black as white. And
JJ did stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was
I actually
weird
kinda like
then,
it.
It's
but
weird
when
now.
JJ did it, it was just random shit. Whereas when they do it in Discovery, it means something.
it's like
so-
turning the camera sideways in Batman 66.
Yeah.
It's the bad guy hideout.
Yeah.
But unless anyone else has anything on the episode, I think we can go ahead and talk about...
I wanted to say again, Pike nails it totally. Every scene, every move, everything he said was like, that's awesome, that's awesome, that's awesome, all the way through. I just want to give a shout out for how amazing the character of Pike is and how great the writing is,
The writing
and the
has been great,
performance
the
and
performance has
everything
been
for
great,
Pike.
yeah.
The other thing, I'm not sure if I like New Saru, so that would be my other big. New Saru is, I miss old Saru, and New Saru is, what is New Saru? I'm not sure.
Doug Jones did appear a couple weeks ago on the Facebook show that replaced After Trek, The Ready Room, and he talked about that a little bit. He basically said that this is Saru, who's like 18 years old, and he's got some freedom now. He's able to, vote or smoke cigarettes or move out of his parents' house or whatever. And he's still the same person, but this is a little bit older Saru. And the way that Doug Jones describes it, I'm a different person now in my 50s than I was when I was 18. And Saru will continue to grow and mature and will be a little bit different, but he's still the same person. That type of framing on it kind of helped it make more sense to me, because I'm also struggling to figure out how I feel about new Saru.
Yeah, it's not that I get why he changed. I'm just not sure if I like it, and I don't really know. The old Saru, I felt like I had some grip on this character. This new guy feels like a very strange person who
I need another
is not well defined.
I need another Saru-centric episode.
Yeah.
So that I can get a handle on this new interpretation of the character.
Yeah, because he's sitting there, no, let them fight. It's like, whoa, okay then.
He still had some very traditionally Saru moments. Like, I think when Pike told him something they were doing, and he was like kind of taken aback, and he's like, "We're doing what, Captain?" So that kind of tentative nature of him, like that we think of him as, that slightly data-like, inquisitive, tentative quality. I think that's still there. But it's, there's a sort of, maybe an aggression that will sneak through, I think, every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about, a couple nitpicks I had was that, I hate a 23rd century shuttlecraft having a transporter. That really bugs me. That just radically changes the way I think about the technology in Star Trek. Kind of like how they did when they started putting force fields on the ships in season 1, or in the hangar bays for the shuttles.
I guess I always figured they had hangar bay force fields back
in TOS. They had to decompress the shuttle bay.
All right.
Was it only the Disco's shuttle that we saw have a transporter?
Yeah, but
Section 31 didn't.
every shuttlecraft we see in Discovery is the same shuttlecraft. They all look the same.
What if somebody said that the Discovery shuttlecraft had been modified because they do kind of experimental stuff on Discovery?
It's weird that you don't see any transporter pad or anything on the interior of that shuttlecraft.
They do. They have a big thing in the ceiling.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, that when they beamed up, they showed this big. They all run to the back and get under the big circle.
That makes it a little bit better then.
So maybe is that circle there in all the sets, or is it just the Section 31 shuttles?
It's also weird that they had like the drones cleaning up the mess hall, but I think those are supposed to be Tig Notaro's, which.
We haven't seen her in a while. I guess we'll find out what she's been doing. Apparently making drones for the mess hall.
I'll go ahead and move in.
They better watch out. Saru will come and just crush them.
Yeah.
He hates drones.
I'll go ahead and bring
communicators.
I'll bring up the Easter eggs, because I did count that as an Easter egg, because I do think those are supposed to be Jet Reno's drones we saw the first episode.
That's her appearance for the episode?
Yeah.
Well, that's not her appearance, but that was a little callback to the episode.
Oh, yeah. She had a few drones flying about on the asteroid.
She called them the kids.
Yep.
Also, like, Talos IV is full of Easter eggs. We have the singing plants that made Spock smile.
Yep.
More on that in a second. They also had a bunch of sound effects for Talos IV. A lot of the stuff going on with the Talosians, like when images would kind of like dissolve into one another, they were using a bunch of sound effects from the original episode of The Cage. They also had the transporter sound effect for the Section 31 ship, was the same sound effect used in The Cage on the Enterprise. Burnham in this episode also mentions the needs of the many, which she also brought that up in Season 1, Episode 8, I believe. But yeah, obviously that's a callback to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Weirdly, I'm kind of bugged when they use that, because they make it sound like it was like always this backbone of his Vulcan philosophy, and I kind of felt like that it was just something that he articulated in the moment of the movie, which obviously it was as the script was written, but it's not a big issue. It's just a bit of retconning, but it just minorly bugs me.
It also bothers me in, I think it was also in Brother, the first episode of Season 2, when they quote Star Trek 6 when Spock says, logic is often the beginning of things, but not the end.
Right.
I hated them using that, because I thought that was supposed to be something that Spock learned, much later in life. Not something he knew when he was in his 20s.
I'm fine with these things turning out to be Vulcan proverbs. In fact, I've done that in my role-playing game. I've ripped off Spock lines and just made them Vulcan proverbs so other Vulcans and stuff can use them.
It makes a kind of sense. There's just something internally in me. Anyway, what else we got, Fatheree?
And speaking of Vulcan, we also have mention of the Forge. I'm not sure why it's a forest now, when before it was a desert, but I guess
that bugged me more than the transporter, honestly.
You can have forage terrain and desert terrain both in the same, close enough, same vicinity.
Most fat area in the novels and all the other expanded universe, it's a big enough area that I guess there could be a forest, but it's always described as being completely desolate.
The forage, of course, first appeared in the animated series episode Yesteryear that we were just talking about, and also appeared in Enterprise and was mentioned in DS9. I believe Worf suggested that as a possible honeymoon destination.
Yes.
So the Vulcan Forge, it's a true test of your endurance to go out and survive.
I wish I'd known about the big underground graboid thing that comes after Spock, because I totally would have had that come after my characters in the Forge in my role-playing game. I was like, dang it, I went... that would have been awesome.
You could have had that
little... sent out the sellout to save her.
But yeah, the thing in the show was very similar to the monster that attacks Chris Pine in Star Trek 09.
Yes.
Yeah, a big old dinosaur-looking thing.
Rips out of the
Just
ground.
the way it pops out of the ground and starts chasing on
it.
It's
all very leggy.
Similar.
Yeah.
And I guess like the last Easter egg is we see Spock smile at the end of the episode. And the only other time we have Spock smile when he's not like under the influence of drugs or...
Just met Kirk and found out he was alive.
or something weird, where he's not in his normal state of mind, was when he smiled at the humming plant in the cage with Pike. So maybe there will be some explanation as to why does Spock smile sometimes in these pre-TOS depictions Or maybe he only does it when he's around Pike. Maybe Pike's just like that good of a captain that whenever you're serving under him, you just gotta smile.
Kirk was always second place.
That would be the ultimate retcon.
Oh, wow, you would have so many angry fanboys if they said put that in there. Oh.
Spock goes out of his way to give Pike a happy ending to his story. And,
Yeah.
Kirk, he just let him go off and die with Picard. Sorry, Star Trek Generation spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe that was it on Easter eggs. Of course, as always, if I missed anything, let me know. Also, if there's any big continuity discrepancies that you're noticing this season, be sure to let me know, and I'm going to try to explain them all at the end of the season. But yeah, so that wraps up everything we had to say about this fantastic episode of Star Trek Discovery that I think we all loved. And if they can only all be this good, wouldn't that be great if all these Star Trek shows are of this caliber?
Needs more Talosians. That's all. That's the secret.
That is the secret ingredient. But we will, of course, be back Sunday it's actually going to be St. Patrick's Day, I believe. And we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 9, written by Michelle Paradise and directed by Jonathan Frakes, Project Daedalus. The cool thing about having not only Jonathan Frakes back in the director's chair, but Michelle Paradise is going to be the co-showrunner with Alex Kurtzman in Season 3. And this is the first episode written by her.
Okay.
And I think she also wrote the last 2 episodes of the season. I'm thinking they're kind of a big 2-part season finale. But yeah, so this will be the first time we get a taste of this new showrunner, who apparently is a very well-versed Star Trek fan who had some brilliant contributions this season and got the job of being co-showrunner.
Well, that's cool. We'll be down to get our sneak preview of what's to come.
Yeah, so be sure to check that out. And as always, until next time,
live long and prosper, y'all.
Thank all of you so much for checking out this installment of Tex-Trek. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like our YouTube videos and subscribe to our channel. Audio-only version of episodes are available at our website, www.tex-trek.com. Please check out our site, especially if you just want an audio-only podcast. We have that available for you. Y'all can also keep up with us online. You can follow us on Twitter at Tex-Trek, or you can check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tex-trek. Please, by all means, let us know what you think by dropping a comment anywhere you see fit. We definitely want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you liked and what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see differently going forward. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I can be reached at fathereeactual@tex-trek.com. Thank all y'all again. Take care.